This is Evangelist Henry Walker. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. Maybe you're listening at my website at henrywalker.org under audio messages. Or maybe you're listening at podpoint.com/Henry Walker. Or maybe you're listening on my YouTube channel, New Life Revival International Henry Walker. New Life Revival International Henry Walker. We want to continue talking about miracles. In this message, we want to talk about miracles around this Passover season. Passover starts on Tuesday at 6 p.m., Tuesday, April 4th, to Wednesday, 6 p.m. Then you have 7 days of unleavened bread. But there's so many beautiful miracles that can happen to you. Just get ready to receive. After you surrender everything to the Father, allow Him to mortify the deeds of your flesh, make you more like Yahshua, and bring the fruit of the Spirit out of your life, you can receive these wonderful Passover miracles. But let's go to Father in prayer right now. Father, I thank you for another opportunity to minister to your people, Father. I ask you to use me just the way you want, Father. Let me say only what you want me to say, nothing more and nothing less. Help people to open up their spirits, Father, and not only receive the word, but study the word for themselves. And Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yahshua, by the blood of Yahshua. Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 12. We want to talk about some of those miracles that happened at the original Passover. And in this message, we want to talk about other miracles that could happen in the same season. But Exodus chapter 12, verse 36. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. In this current Passover, there could be money transfers coming our way. Just receive. And then the Father led them to the Red Sea. Exodus chapter 14, verse 3. Yahweh spoke to Moses, for Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land, the wilderness has shut them in. And I'll harden Pharaoh's heart, that he may follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am Yahweh, and they did so. See, the Father led them into a trap. And maybe you have so many circumstances coming against you, but it's a wonderful opportunity for the Father to show up and show out for you and show you that He is the King of the universe and He's your daddy. And He'll take care of you. After you surrender everything to Him, He'll take care of you. The children of Israel got scared. In verse 13, and Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh, which He will show you today. For the Egyptians, whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. And maybe some people are coming against you, and it seems to be enormous pressure, but let the Father just win for you as you stand still and stand on His word. Don't stand on your feelings. Stand on His word. He'll win for you. Because the battle is His. It's not yours. Verse 14. Yahweh shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. So the Father led the Egyptians into a trap. Verse 24. It came to pass that in the morning watch, Yahweh looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels. Just one look from Yahweh caused all this havoc to the Egyptians. Verse 30. Yahweh saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And people feared Yahweh. They believed Yahweh and they believed Moses. That's a beautiful miracle, taking them out. And see, we've been taken out of Egypt. We've been taken out of sin. The same power that raised Yahshua from the dead quickened us out of sin. That's the greatest miracle. But if you turn me to Leviticus, keep going to the right to Leviticus 23, talking about Passover, Leviticus chapter 23, starting in verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at evening is Yahweh's Passover. Passover, as I mentioned, starts on Tuesday, the 4th, at 6 p.m. It ends on Wednesday at 6 p.m. And then 7 days of unleavened bread, starting on the 5th at 6 p.m. So again in verse 5, in the 14th day of the first month at evening is Yahweh's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And the first day you shall have a special convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. And the seventh day is a special convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. That's very important as we go into the Gospel of Luke. Go to the Gospel of Luke chapter 2. So remember, you had Passover and 7 days on unleavened bread, or 8 days. April 5th at 6 p.m. starts the 7 days on unleavened bread. So you had Passover and 7 days on unleavened bread. And some Jewish people call the whole 8-day feast Passover. But Luke chapter 2, verse 40, talking about Yahshua. And the child grew and waxed strong in the spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of the Father was upon him. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the Feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, in the Greek, you can look it up, it says when he became 12 years old, this was his birthday on Passover, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. The custom of the feast was done on the first day after Passover. The first day of unleavened bread, they had to be in the temple for a special convocation. And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Yahshua tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they supposed him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintance. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem and seeking him. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing and asking him questions. So it was like a day's journey. He became 12 years old on Passover. So Passover is his birthday. They traveled 1 day to be in Jerusalem in the temple, a special convocation, on the first day of unleavened bread. So it's this beautiful confirmation that he was born on Passover. We know he died on Passover, so he's exactly 33 years old when he died. It just shows his timing. He's got everything under control, his perfect timing. We talk about his birth. Let's now talk about his death. He died on Passover. Go to the book of Daniel with me. Daniel chapter 9. You got Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel. Daniel chapter 9. Talking about the death of Yahshua, his sacrificial death, and how he was born on Passover, died on Passover. In Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. Verse 27, and he shall confirm, who? The Messiah, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the middle of the week, which is Wednesday, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. There's no more sacrifices for sins. Yahshua did it once and for all. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation. He said, it is finished. It's been consummated. It is finished. His sacrificial death for every one of us was done. It is finished on Passover. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. That's us. So go with me to the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 27. In verse 45. Now from the 6th hour there is darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. Remember, the day runs from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. The 12 hours of the day are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. are the 12 hours of the night, or the night watches. So 9 a.m. is the 3rd hour of the day, noon is the 6th hour of the day, and 3 p.m. is the 9th hour of the day. At 3 p.m. is when Yahshua said it is finished. Verse 46, now about the 9th hour, Yahshua cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That's saying, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? He never said that. He actually said, it says in the Aramaic, for this is the reason you brought me here, to die for every one of us. He said before that the Father will never leave me or forsake me. So this is a bad translation. But at the 9th hour of the day, 3 p.m. is when Yahshua gave up his life for us. So Wednesday at 3 p.m. And they had to get him into the tomb because Wednesday at 6 p.m. started the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They didn't want his body hanging up there on the first day of unleavened bread. Remember, leaven is a type of sin. They had to get the leaven out of the house. They didn't want him hanging up there on the first day of unleavened bread. So now Yahshua said that in 3 days and 3 nights, I'm rising. 72 hours, just like Jonah spent 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the whale, Yahshua is going to spend 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So Wednesday at 3 p.m., 72 hours later is Saturday at 3 p.m. That's when he rose. They didn't come to the tomb until after 6. They felt they couldn't go near a dead body on the Sabbath. But if they got there at 3 p.m., they would have seen him rise. And the only ones who saw Yahshua rise were the keepers of the tomb. Go to the Gospel of John with me. John chapter 19. Some people get messed up with the regular weekly Sabbath of Friday night 6 to Saturday night 6. They try to come up with a Sunday resurrection. But that Sabbath was a special Sabbath. For the first day of unleavened bread was a special convocation, a special Sabbath. And the last day of unleavened bread was a special Sabbath. In verse 31, the Jews therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the tree on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was a high day, a high Sabbath, not a regular weekly Sabbath. Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, that they might be taken away. So, as I mentioned, sometime after 6 p.m. is when they came to the tomb. In chapter 20, verse 1, the first day of the week came Mary Magdalene early when it was yet dark. Saturday night after 6 p.m. is the first day of the week. It was still dark. She ran and told Peter and John, and they ran to the tomb, and of course they found him not there. In verse 7, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but wrapped together in a place by itself. In verse 12, and Mary saw 2 angels in white sitting, the one at the head and the other at the feet. Remember, in the tabernacle, you had the Ark of the Covenant, and on top was the mercy seat, and you had 2 cherubims facing each other. And here, those 2 angels were one at the head where Yahshua laid, and one at his feet. And he is our mercy seat. He is the Ark of the Covenant. The Father is in him. The presence of the Father is in the Ark of the Covenant. Yahshua is the Father manifested in the flesh. 1 Timothy 3:16, the Father was manifested in the flesh. Justified in the Spirit. Seen of angels. Preached unto the Gentiles. Believed on in the world. Received up into heaven. It's beautiful when you see who Yahshua really is. Just like the Father said to Moses, Exodus chapter 3, I am that I am. Yahshua said in John 8, before Abraham was, I am. It's so beautiful and so simple. We can't understand his qualities, his attributes, but as to who he is, he's the one sitting on the throne, Revelation 4:2. So his timing, we're talking about Passover, talking about his beautiful timing, exactly 33 years old, born on Passover and died on Passover. And he rose on Nisan 17, which is the Feast of Firstfruits. Right in the middle of unleavened bread is the Feast of Firstfruits. He rose on the Feast of Firstfruits. He's the firstfruits from the dead. We got to study his feast days. He's a Jew, was a Jew. It always will be a Jew. We got to follow his footsteps towards those feast days. So stop this Yahshua being born on December 25th. It's the birth of the sun god. And get yourself out of that tradition. He's born on Passover, died on Passover. Exactly 33 years old. When he was born, there's a cave down below. They called the Tower of the Flock. They had special shepherds watching over the flock on Passover. And before 3 p.m., the flock would be led to the temple to be killed on Passover. So in that same cave is where Yahshua was born, below the Tower of the Flock. There's a message on my website. When was Yahshua born? When did he die? When did he rise? It mentions the Tower of the Flock. So I believe that when those lambs were let out around 3 p.m., Yahshua was born at 3 p.m. That's my opinion from what I see in the Word. So he was exactly 33 years old, born at 3 o'clock on Passover, died at 3 p.m. on Passover. His timing is impeccable, and maybe you're waiting for a miracle for years and years and years, but his timing is impeccable. Like I said, he's ready to move for you now. If you surrendered everything to him, he's ready to move for you now, and I decree that. In the name of Yahshua, by the blood of Yahshua, receive your miracle. Passover is a special time for special miracles. Another aspect of Passover, blessings, miracles, is the fact that it shows that he was under complete control. Yahshua is the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. So if you go to the book of Matthew with me, Matthew chapter 26, verse 62. And the high priest arose, Caiaphas, and said unto him, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against you? But Yeshua held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure you by the living Elohim that thou tell us whether you be the Messiah, the son of Elohim. Yeshua said unto him, You have said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Now Caiaphas knows that his days are over as the high priest. And in verse 65, the high priest rents his clothes. He tore his clothes. He's angry. And he's no longer the high priest. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Yeshua is standing before Herod. And Herod is saying he's clean. So the high priest had to officiate over the lamb and say whether the lamb was clean or not. And here, Yahweh is using Herod. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Yeshua is taken before Herod, and Herod pronounced over him that he is clean. So the high priest at 9 o'clock in the morning on Passover would look at the sacrifice and declare that that sacrifice is clean. So Yeshua, the high priest after the Melchizedek, say this sacrifice himself, he is clean. The Father's in complete control. His timing is impeccable. That's one attribute of Passover, but it's complete control. If you go to the left of the book of Zechariah, chapter 11, again, we're talking about Passover, special miracles. His timing is impeccable. You've been waiting for the Father to do something for you, special miracles. Well, his timing is impeccable. We talk about his complete control. And we're still talking about his complete control in Zechariah chapter 11, verse 12. And I said unto them, If you think good, give me my price. And if not, forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver. So here's Yahweh saying, this is my price. See, Yeshua is Yahweh in a body. He's saying, give me my price. And it's 30 pieces of silver. In verse 13, and Yahweh said unto me, this is one of the people that gave the 30 pieces of silver, cast that 30 pieces of silver into the potter, a goodly price that I was prized of them. I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of Yahweh. See, this is one of the ones who had that 30 pieces of silver. After Judas threw it back at him, he said, let's take this 30 pieces of silver and use it for the potter's field so the poor would have a place to bury their dead. This is him speaking before he's ever born. Yahweh said to him, this person, cast it into the potter's field. Whoever this person was told by Yahweh to put it into the potter's field for the poor to bury their dead. It was a wealth transfer. And it's wealth transfers that happened during this time too. Wealth transfers from the Father to us. Receive them today. He's always in the right time and he controls everything. He's always there for us at the right time and he controls everything and everybody. Everything was created by him and for him and by him. All things consist. Again, talking about the Father's complete control in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10. And I'll pour upon the house of David, upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of grace and of supplications. And they shall look upon me, whom they have pierced. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son. And shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. Yeshua is the firstborn from the dead. And this is talking about Yahweh saying, they look upon me whom they pierced. Yeshua, again, is Yahweh in the body. It's so simple and so beautiful. Another aspect of Passover is about his blood being shed for us. Go to the book of Acts chapter 20. Acts chapter 20. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the book of Acts chapter 20 in verse 28. Take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock over which the Spirit of the Father had made you overseers, to feed the church of the Father, which he has purchased with his own blood. So that blood that flowed out of Yeshua is the Father's blood. That makes it so powerful. And that blood is so special. It can bless you right now. It can deliver you from anything that's holding on to you that's not of the Father. It can set you free. It can heal you right now. I plead the blood over every aspect of your life. Be free. Be healed in the name of Yeshua by his blood. So apply that blood over anything in your life that you're concerned about. As you go out of the house, plead your blood over the car, over the bus, the train, any meetings you have. Plead his blood over everybody you're going to meet. Any meetings, like I said. Plead his blood over every aspect of your life. And watch how you are protected. And the blood is also an offensive weapon. If you're going to minister to somebody, plead the blood before you ever get there. And watch how the Father would move anybody who would try to interfere with your ministering to that person or persons. And again, this is a time of great wealth transfers. If you go with me to Isaiah 53, there's a prophecy about Yahshua dying up there for us. Isaiah chapter 53. Remember, Yahshua died on Passover, his birthday. And he is giving gifts to us on his birthday. In verse 12, Isaiah 53, verse 12. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, the Father is saying. And he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he had poured out his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors. And he bare the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. So on his birthday, he's dividing the spoils with us, as I said. So in chapter 54, verse 2, as a result of the spoils that he is giving us on Passover, verse 2, we can enlarge the place of our tent. We can let them stretch forth the curtains of our habitations. We can spare not, lengthen our cords, and strengthen our stakes. We can dream big because of what he did for us. He stayed up there for us. And people wanted him to come down. He stayed up there for us and finished. And he said it is finished. And not only was our salvation completed, which is the greatest, but the fact is these spoils have been given to us, and we need to receive them today. Again, if you surrendered everything to the Father and want to become more and more like Yahshua every day, and allow the Father to bring the fruit of the Spirit out of your life, love, joy, peace, longsuffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance, then you should receive those spoils right now. In the name of Yahshua, by the blood of Yahshua. And dream big. We serve a big Yahweh, the King of the universe. As I mentioned in Genesis 1, he said, let there be light. And he never said stop. And the universe is still expanding at the speed of light, scientists have said. So he's bigger than all that. Can he not bless you? Sure he can. Once he has all of you, he can really bless you. And also it's a great time for deliverance. You can be set free right now. People of Israel were set free from Egypt. And you can be set free from any habit that's not of the Father right now. And I decree it. Be free. In the name of Yahshua, by the blood of Yahshua. And just like he rose up on Nisan 17, the Feast of Firstfruits, he can raise up those dreams, those dead dreams in your life. And bring them to a reality. Right in front of your eyes, right in front of your enemies, and prepare a table right in front of your enemies. And remember also on Nisan 17, Haman was hung on Nisan 17. They crossed the Red Sea on Nisan 17. The ark landed on Mount Ararat, Nisan 17. It's a wonderful time right now. This year is so exciting. Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the 5th is when he died on Passover. And Saturday, the 8th, at 3 p.m. is when he rose. It's just like that week when he died and rose. And this is no coincidence. This is Yahweh setting us up. Be careful, be watchful during the season. It's so beautiful. So Wednesday, the 5th, at 3 p.m. is when he died on Passover. And Saturday, the 8th, at 3 p.m. is when he rose. 72 hours. Again, when he came to the tomb around 6 p.m., he had already risen. As you get ready to close, go back to John chapter 20 with me. Gospel of John chapter 20. Remember that week that Yahshua gave up his life, he died on Wednesday at 3 p.m., rose on Saturday at 3 p.m. And same thing happening this year. Wednesday, the 5th, is when he died at 3 p.m. Saturday, the 8th, is when he rose. John chapter 20. Remember we mentioned in verse 1 that Mary came when it was still dark on Saturday night, the first day of the week. And he had already risen. So in verse 19, John chapter 20, verse 19. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, Saturday night at evening, sometime after 6 p.m., When the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Yahshua and stood in the midst and said unto them, Peace be unto you. How could he rise on Sunday morning when Saturday night he came into the upper room, walked through the wall, and appeared to his disciples? So again, he rose on Saturday at 3 p.m. They didn't come to the tomb until sometime after 6 p.m. He already rose. And it said in verse 1, as I mentioned, they came, well, it's still dark on the first day of the week, Saturday night. On Sunday night, when it's still dark, is not the first day of the week, it's the second day of the week. So on Saturday night, the first day of the week, he came to the upper room and said, Peace be unto you. Before we continue, I want to remind you that this is a pro-life ministry. We believe that life begins at conception. And as I mentioned on every preceding podcast, and we'll continue to mention it, is that the baby's heart begins to beat at around 18 days, and around 4 months, the baby's heart is pumping about 25 quarts of blood per day. This is a life. This is not a tissue, this is a baby. And most scientists believe that life begins at conception. Here's a statement from them. At the moment the sperm cell of the human male meets the ovum of the female, and the union results in a fertilized ovum, a zygote, a new life has begun. And the College of Pediatrics believes the same thing, that life begins at conception. So we want to pray for the babies in the womb. Just join with me. Father, I ask you to touch the babies in the womb. Bring them to a full birth, Father. And Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, for bringing that baby to the full birth. And help the parents, if need be, to understand that that's a life in that mother's womb, all lives. And that life needs to be preserved. So, Father, talk to the mothers and the fathers. And, Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yahshua, by the blood of Yahshua. And if any of you out there had an abortion, repent, ask the Father to forgive you, and go on, following Yahshua. There's certain things I mentioned on previous podcasts that I want to remind you of. And remember, the day runs from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Sometime after 6 p.m., start praying for that day. And also, if your flesh is giving you any thoughts of worry, fear, anxiety, or impure thoughts, say out loud, Yahshua, thank you for the crown of thorns on your head. That was for me. My mind is protected by your blood. I only think your thoughts. Say that out loud. So remember from this podcast, remember Yeshua's death and birth on Wednesday at 3 p.m., Nisan 14, and celebrate his resurrection on Saturday at 3 p.m., Nisan 17. Forget about this Easter Sunday junk. It's all about a goddess, Astar. Stay away from it. When he had services for Astar, that pagan goddess, they killed children and put their blood on eggs. Stay away from Easter. Stay away from Easter Sunday. As we explained earlier, he didn't die on Good Friday. So go over this message. Meditate on the scriptures. And on my website at henrywalker.org, under written messages, there's a message on Happy Easter with a question mark. Study it. And if any of you want to email me, you can email me at contact@henrywalker.org. If you have any questions or any praise reports, I'll be so glad to hear from you. And if you enjoy these podcasts, tell other people about these podcasts, share, subscribe, and remember to next time. This is Evangelist Henry Walker saying, greater is the Father in you, your daddy, the King of the universe, than anything or anybody in the world.